Hey guys, welcome to the Dave Darren Show. This is going to be a tremendous interview. I have a gentleman who plays Captain James T. Kirk, and we're going to be talking about Star Trek Continues. It's a fabulous, fabulous show. Hopefully some of you guys have seen it, but I'd like to play a little introduction to get you guys a feel for the actual show, the content, some of the work involved in this, and let's listen to this, and then we're going to be talking to Vic, who plays Captain Kirk on the show. Here we go.
The Enterprise is scheduled to return to Earth shortly. I always intended to bring her back in one piece. But the triumph is...
Priority 1. We're diverting you to Aldebaran.
Romulans.
Let's talk about Star Trek Continues. I want to capture more of the emotional feel of the program. The emotional connection by far captivated us more than the actual technology did, and that says a lot because the series initially was conceived that way. So tell us a little bit about the conception of the series, etc.
Well, since my childhood love affair with Star Trek, it was never firing phasers that resonated with me. It was never flipping open communicators. It was never fighting the Klingons. It was never beaming down. It was the stories. It was the storytelling and the emotional impact of the characters and their relationships. And to be honest with you, that's why I think we still talk about Star Trek today. I'd like to think that the stories we've told have been classic Star Trek morality tales with ethical questions and moral dilemmas and social issues. And I think that's one of the reasons that our series resonates so much, is because it's not just a bunch of fans beaming down. It's not just a bunch of fans fighting the Klingons. It's deeper, emotionally packed stories.
I'm very curious about this. Some of the episodes I watched of all of the other series, there were several in particular that I really thought took me to heart. One of them I'm going to mention, and then I'm going to ask you some questions about it. One of them was in the Next Generation, when Picard is actually captured, not physically, but his mental capabilities are transferred into a world that has long since died. I think it was 1,000 years. And at the very end of the episode, he is brought to the knowledge that it is a recreation of this world that did not want to lose its identity. So they brought Picard into it to share their emotions and share their beings to another entity to carry their life existence beyond. The only thing he has left is beamed from the, I guess it's the vehicle that captured him, the whatever it was the flute that he had learned how to play the musical instruments.
Right.
And the thing that really captivates me of that is that I do not feel like it's acting at the very end. I feel like it's legitimate, sincere emotion. When I watch the series Star Trek Continues, I capture your personal emotion, not acting. Of course, the acting is spectacular among everyone in the cast, but your emotional level connection with the product and your fans and your love of the original series is something that I don't think it could be imitated. I think it's got to be there, and I think it is with you.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons I believe people have enjoyed our series so much. And it's because they know we're not making money. It's because they know that we have no other motive for doing what we're doing except love for Star Trek. I mean, if you think about it, there are a number of motivations that would drive people to do anything, right? The hope of money, right? To be paid well, the hope of success, the hope of more opportunities, doing a favor for somebody. I mean, there are any number of motivations. But from the very beginning, every single person, Dave, who's ever come into Star Trek Continues, I have taken them aside and I've said, okay, now let me explain this. There's no money. We can't pay you thousands of dollars. We are doing this as a love letter to Star Trek. And if you want to be a part of that, we'd love to have you. But don't come in here thinking, having any delusions of grandeur. And don't come in here thinking you're going to make some payday, because that's not why we're doing it. Okay. So, in lieu of not being paid any sums of money, large sums of money to bring people in, the viewers can watch our shows and they know that everybody that they see on screen is there for one reason alone, and that is to give of themselves to make something special. And that, Dave, is priceless. It is pure love and pure emotion that is making Star Trek Continues.
When you first filmed episode 1, it was your initial product, your initial filming, the initial intensity of doing it was at that moment. What did you think after the conclusion of episode 1? Did you think, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? It is so complex. Or were you just thinking, it doesn't matter. I have this love for what I'm doing. It'll overcome any obstacles that are going to be thrown at me throughout the rest of the episodes?
Well, let me tell you this, Dave. There was no intention of making more than one.
I did not know that. Huh.
I mean, you may not know this either, Dave, but I paid for the first episode to be made.
That I knew. That I did know.
Okay. I did not feel that it was morally right or ethical for me to ask fans to give me money to do something that they had no proof I could do.
Wow.
So I thought to myself, this is the quintessential opportunity to put your money where your mouth is. You've heard that term 1,000 times. This is where the rubber meets the road, right here. If this is something I believe in and I really have a passion for doing it, I'm going to buy everybody's plane tickets to fly down here. I'm going to pay for their hotel rooms. I'm going to pay for their food every day. I'm going to pay to have these sets built. I'm going to pay to rent this studio to have these sets built in. And I'm going to make this thing, this one time, I'm going to make a Star Trek episode as best as I can remember what I loved about the original series. And that's what I did with Pilgrim of Eternity. I didn't know if anybody would like it. And at that point, it was really moot. Because I wanted to do this to pay tribute to the show that inspired me so much when I was a little boy.
Anything?
Nothing, sir. I've tried friendship messages on all known hailing frequencies.
Ship's power now is 29%. She's fading fast.
Not without a fight. Lock photon torpedo on. Dead center.
Torpedo locked.
Fire.
Captain, I'm detecting 2 life forms in the center of the anomaly.
Life forms?
It is Apollo.
Yes.
Curious he has aged so rapidly in 2 years.
We can't give you the worship you want.
Much has changed. I no longer seek it to be a god for centuries, only to weaken and die alone.
There's no telling what he's liable to do.
But can't that be said about any one of us? In each of us, there's the potential to do great things and to do dangerous and unpredictable things. How is Apollo any different?
It was I who guided it into Achilles' heel. Payment for the sacrilege of murdering Troilus, my son, on the very altar of Apollo.
So I did it. We released it. And the response was so overwhelming that we decided, okay, now we have a proof of concept, right? Now we have a physical start to finish product, a full-length episode. Not a promo, not a trailer, not a teaser, but a full-length, fully realized episode, Dave. With full cast, full crew, full sets, a complete story. And so with that in our hands, having paid for it ourselves, then we launched a crowdfunding campaign and basically said, look, guys, if you want us to make more, if you like this and you'd like to see more, then help us. And we raised enough money to make 3 more episodes, and that's exactly what we did. Efficiently, with love and care and integrity, we released 2, 3, 4. Then we launched another crowdfunding campaign and made 4, 5, and made 5, 6, and 7. And then with our last crowdfunding, we finished the series. And we did every single thing we promised we would do.
Another question here. I interview a lot of bands, and they will have written that perfect song that connects with their fans and themselves. Star Trek, the original series with William Shatner, reached a level maybe not recognized in its initial inception, but throughout the years, it hit that pinnacle and that nerve in people's hearts that they connected with it. And when you find that nerve that's hit and that emotional connectivity, it is almost impossible to replicate that. And you replicated it with Star Trek Continues, and everyone realizes that, and I realize it, and I recognize it.
Thank you.
So that gap was filled by Star Trek Continues. And there has been a gap for a lot of years. Now that gap is taken away from the lack of continuing episodes of Star Trek Continues, obviously you realize that the missing of producing this show continually beyond where you left it off, that to me, if I had to stop my radio show and I could not do it, I would be devastated.
Well, let me just say this, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
I poured every ounce of my skill and my love and my concentration and my creativity into Star Trek Continues. And so did my cast and crew. I don't think we could have done it any better than we did it. And what I set out to do was finish the 5-year mission. I had a goal, and my goal was not to keep making episodes until I got too old to play Captain Kirk. You know what I mean? My goal was not to just keep cranking out episodes until we couldn't find any good stories anymore, and our episodes were getting kind of lame, and everybody was getting kind of pudgy. And, you know what I mean? That wasn't my goal. My goal was to finish the 5-year mission. My original goal, after we got into doing more episodes, was to do 13. I wanted to do one more TV season. Today's TV seasons, obviously not seasons like they did in the original series era. But do one more TV season of 13 episodes. But my goal was always to finish the series. And in that respect, I accomplished my goal. I did what I set out to do. So even though I may be very sad, and I'm quite certain there is already kind of a hole in my heart, because I poured so much passion and time and money and effort and creativity and sweat into this show. I could not help but miss it, right? I mean, I couldn't not feel that sense of loss. At the same time, I feel a great sense of satisfaction. I feel a great sense of closure because I did what I set out to do. And I'm very proud of that.
How long before the Hulkin prediction of galactic revolt is realized?
Approximately 240 years.
The inevitable outcome?
The Empire shall be overthrown, of course.
In every revolution, there's one man with a vision.
Captain Kirk, I shall consider it.
weapons. He put these thoughts into that Vulcan head of yours, didn't he? That other captain. After all we've been through, all we've accomplished, earned for ourselves, you would trust a stranger from another universe? Your mutiny ends right here. What now? Peace? Freedom? The Empire will hunt you down like the mangy dog that you are.
Perhaps. But I must try. In every revolution, there is one man with a vision.
Who told you that?
You did.
The episodes as they were left off with Star Trek, the original series, as you mentioned, you carried them through further development. When you carried them through further development, we did not only see story to carry the episode through further development, we saw character growth. Was that meaningful to you? You just didn't want to...
Absolutely.
Yeah, I noticed that very clearly.
I'll tell you something interesting. I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I can certainly speak for my portrayal of Kirk. When people ask me what my favorite episode of the original series was, I give them an answer that they're not expecting, because it's not one of the main popular episodes people think of. But my favorite episode of the original series was an episode called Requiem for Methuselah. It was in the 3rd season, and it was when they went to the Enterprise had that epidemic on board, and they went to that planet to get the substance they needed to make an antidote, and they found that old man living there by himself. And then he introduced them to the young girl that was his adopted daughter. And then you find, Kirk falls in love with her, and she seems to be the perfect woman. She's intelligent, she's beautiful, she's well-spoken, she's brilliant, she's creative, she's talented. And then you find out she's an android. And you find out that the old man was immortal, and that he built her so that he could have a mate that was as immortal and as well suited for him as he was immortal. What I loved about that episode was the last scene. In the last scene, you see Captain Kirk like you never see him anywhere else in the series. You see him sitting at his desk.
Emotionally vulnerable. Yes.
Ashamed. You see Captain Kirk so ashamed of his behavior. He feels so bad about how he behaved. And then he even says, we put on a pretty poor show, didn't we? If only I could forget. And he puts his head down on his desk and falls asleep. McCoy comes in, and Spock and McCoy have a wonderful moment. And even McCoy says, man, I do wish he could forget. And Spock steps up and mind melds with Kirk, and the last thing he says in the episode is, forget.
Yeah.
Now, what I loved about that episode was it showed a side of Kirk you never saw. In the late 60s, the heroes of a television show were always the heroes. They never got hurt. They always saved the day. They always made the right choice. They always came through. They were the heroes, hero. But as you and I know, that's not real life. All of us have failed. All of us make mistakes. All of us fall and stumble. Hopefully we get back up. But we all have regrets. We all have guilt and pain and shame, loss. And as we started Star Trek Continues, and I was dwelling on one day, contemplating the episode of the original series that I loved most, the one I just described to you. And we wrote an episode based on that. And that was our 4th episode, The White Iris. The entire concept behind it was Kirk is not as unscathed and unbroken. Kirk is much more in touch with the emotions we have all experienced than we think he is. I wanted us to see more of the human, relatable side of Captain Kirk than we ever saw in the original series.
I see from your character in the interview and the talking with you here, I don't see that one episode would have possibly quenched your desire to give the love of that series what you thought it deserved.
You're right. Had we only made the one, there would have never been an opportunity to finish the series. There would have never been an opportunity to bring any closure to the Enterprise's 5-year mission, or Kirk's captaincy, or Spock's mission, or McCoy's leaving the service, any of the characters. But this is a perfect opportunity for me to thank the fans, for me to thank the people who gave and supported us making more so that we could do what we've done.
Right. Do you have a favorite episode out of all of the ones that you have been part of? And that's a hard question. I know the fans are probably going to say the last 2 episodes. I know they are.
A lot of them say the last 2, but I have read a lot of places where people said 9 was their favorite, the one with John Delancey.
Right.
I've read where a lot of people said 5 was their favorite when Kirk and McCoy went back to the Civil War. I've heard people say 4 was their favorite, The White Iris, which is very close to my heart emotionally. I've heard people say 3 was their favorite because they loved the mirror episode of the original series and they loved seeing that continuation. What I love is you can find lots of people who think who all have different favorite episodes of our series. I know that I'm partial, but I don't think we have a clunker. I have been so intimately involved in every frame of every episode. Sometimes I've directed the episodes, I've cast all of them, I've had my hands in every element of every episode. You love them all, and for different reasons, but there's something special about every one of them to me. I do have a very special place in my heart for 11, for 10 and 11, for the reasons, obviously, for the sense of closure that it brought to my favorite show of all time. But apart from that, I don't think I could pick a favorite.
I'm still waiting for an open transporter window. Without a window, matter energy beams to the surface are automatically scrambled.
Scrambled? As in turned into a pile of mush?
Ah, there's a green light.
Energize. Please. Could our eyes have been affected during transport?
Readings are normal, Jim.
Greetings. Welcome, my friends, to Hylenis. Please, come. The inner council is waiting.
Can you explain our vision?
In fact, I can. An unusual form of radiation emitted by their sun.
Everything looks...
So the cause of the illness and the monochromatic vision are one and the same?
Took a millennium or so for the star's radiotoxins to reach levels high enough to induce acute radiation syndrome.
If we modify your star, you'll see your world in a whole new way. And based on what we've just witnessed, I'm not sure you're ready for it. There's an old saying, a ship in the harbor is safe. But that's not what ships are for.
It's magnificent.
Long have I wanted to tell you.
This has all been a lie.
No, I'm still me. My love for you is not a lie. I'm still the same person.
Even with new vision, do you still not see?
Captain, commence the decontamination sweep of Hylenis.
I'm afraid we won't have the time.
You would let us all die?
We fixed your sun, and they have the ability to sweep the residual effects of the radiation from both worlds.
Has it ever occurred to you that their civilization could be suffering the same fate as yours?
They are what you would become.
Please. Don't make us beg help from them.
There is no them anymore, my dear. Only us.
Now, you know, as I watch the episodes, I'm more focused in watching the action, capturing the emotion, and I don't really look at the credits that thoroughly. So I'm curious about this. In all of the episodes, you had various writers, or for instance, let's talk about the very last episode, which was the critical connection between where Star Trek never left off and where you connected it to the first movie. Who wrote that episode? How complicated was to write that?
Well, you can thank the amazing skills of Rob Sawyer, a very well-known, celebrated sci-fi author. From the moment we talked about a series finale, about bringing our series to an end, we'd always wanted it to be a two-part series finale. We gave Rob Sawyer a basic idea of what we wanted. For instance, we want to see certain things happen. I knew we needed to kill McKenna. I knew I wanted to kill Drake and McKenna, and I knew that this had to happen, and this had to happen, and I wanted to see this, and I want to see this, and I want us to do this. Now here, you organize all that into a great story, and that's what Rob Sawyer did. Rob Sawyer wrote the screenplays for 10 and 11 based on the basic outline that James Kerwin and I gave him, and then he gave us the scripts back, and we would do what Gene Roddenberry did. He would edit the scripts.
Yeah.
He would edit some of the dialogue, and he might move this scene here, or he might give these lines to this character, or he might rewrite this section a little bit more to keep in with his vision. But for the most part, it was a collaborative effort. 10 and 11 was a collaborative effort between Rob Sawyer and James Kerwin and myself.
There will always be someone who finds a critical element in anything, whether it's a classical Beethoven piece of music.
Let me say something, Dave.
Okay.
There are people out there who define themselves by what they are against.
Yeah.
They literally define themselves by being against things. And taking an antagonistic, challenging, criticizing view of anything. They don't like.
How do you?
Especially, let me say this. Especially if it's something that a lot of people do like. Thousands and thousands of people talk about how much they love this movie, or they love this TV show, or they love this song. There's always going to be a few people like, I thought it was stupid. I thought it was dumb. Because they're so desperate to differentiate themselves from the pack. They're so desperate for attention that they will literally take an opposing view, even if they liked it. They would never say that. And here's what I think. That's unfortunate. That's sad. And I would encourage those people to go and make their own thing. And then find out how difficult it is to actually accomplish. And this is the other thing I would say about criticism. I don't look for it. I don't seek it out. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that think I'm a horrible Captain Kirk, and they don't like what I did with it, and they think it's stupid, and it's a dumb fan series, and it's lame, and nobody can act their way out of a paper bag, and the stories are crappy, and fine. God bless, live and let live. If that's really what they want to say to bring joy to their lives, if they really genuinely believe that, that's fine. Here's all I know, Dave, is I did the best I could. I had an idea, and more than have an idea, I executed the idea. And there is a great ocean of work between having an idea and executing an idea.
Approximately 70 years ago, Orion women held dominion over the men. But in a revolt and after a civil war, the men gained control. Rather than abolish the slave trade, they continued it and, in many ways, made it worse. The women are bred with no education or opportunity, in part to keep them subservient and in part out of revenge.
The girl was the property of one of the Tellarites at the time of their death. She was wounded in some sort of assault.
The bruises on my body are not from the Tellarites. Zamenhof beats his slaves. I could be the voice for women who have none. Not if you send me back in chains.
All right, gentlemen, are we ready? Energize. And even without the knowledge, education, beauty, talent, she is still a woman with a fundamental right to be free.
We're not going to change each other's minds for a fine dinner. With your permission, Captain, I'd like to take my leave and return with my Lonani. You're going to regret the day you ever imagined yourself as anything but a slave! And then, this Earth's costume changes the covering that it changed one underneath. And you'll be punished until you bring your plate!
Please!
Do it! Bleed me out! Reveal to them the animal you really are!
What do you think about the human race, the direction that we're going right now? Do you take the optimistic Star Trek concept that we will overcome?
Here's my answer. You ready?
Yep, ready.
You may not have been prepared for this one.
I like being unprepared for question and answer sessions. It's good.
As much as I love Star Trek, as much as I love the optimistic values and the optimistic future of the human race that is espoused in Star Trek, it will only come about when human beings let go of their personal selfishness and greed. And I don't think that will ever happen.
Wow.
People are primarily consumed with their own wealth, and their own power, their own notoriety. There will never be a human race as was dreamed of by Gene Roddenberry.
With today's technology, we are using it to disconnect from each other. For instance, I will tell you this. I go into coffee shops a lot. During the week, I don't disturb anyone there because I know they're all in their day jobs. The people that are there, they're on their phones or they're on their laptops. But on the weekends, I tried something. I went into a coffee shop and I tried to do what I did in the 70s and the 80s and have a conversation with people I'd never met just to see what kind of day they were having, to see what was on their minds, what commonality we had that we could talk about, have a cup of coffee. If you do that now, you're intruding on that person's individuality.
I agree.
It's remarkable the way we've taken a product, our social media product, which is supposed to, the word social means we're socializing with each other, we're communicating. Yeah. Yet the social media is destroying us and making us go right or left, and there's almost no middle.
I agree.
It's
I agree.
Shockingly sad. It really, really is.
I agree.
Lieutenant, contact Starfleet Command. From Kirk, commanding Enterprise. Unknown entity has infiltrated ship's computer after encountering old Earth space probe Friendship 3.
Intelligence. Getting more intelligent by the minute.
Wars on overload! Bones.
Here, Jim.
Where are we? More like when are we? Mid-1800s. Union, Confederacy, these uniforms. American Civil War. This doctor knows new ways to heal.
What new ways? We don't trust no damn Confederates.
You'll trust this Confederate. Your sergeant dies.
I need alcohol to clean the wound. We're running out of every damn thing in this place.
We're gonna have to amputate below the knee.
Do what you gotta do.
Are you out of your mind? You need to stay in bed.
I miss this.
Guess that's worth getting out of bed for.
How many men get to see history unfold with one of its greatest contributors?
True. You're a lucky man.
I am. I'll never be the man I was.
You know what I think, Jim? A man with one leg can stand just as tall as any other. If he has a purpose. Perhaps even taller.
Hi, who's calling?
Hi, this is Gary Brown. Hello, Vic.
Oh, it's
Hey, Garrett, how are
Brown.
you?
Hi. Hey, I have a question for you. The scene that you created with Michelle's, with McKenna's death, probably had everybody that I've spoken to absolutely in tears. That was so heartbreaking, a scene, that it's just the impact it had was just tremendous.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and I must tell you, that's what I was going for. I mean, I am so proud of Michelle for the character she created in McKenna. You know, we were talking about, Dave, we were talking about the iconic roles and how hard it would be and daunting it would be to play an iconic character. But equally as daunting would be to create a brand new character that had to hold her own with iconic characters. How do you create somebody new and inject them into the original series of Star Trek? But Michelle did a wonderful job with it, and we realized that she wasn't in the motion picture. And then we realized that a very powerful plot tool would be to have to see McKenna die, and that might even be the catalyst that makes Spock decide to go back to Vulcan. And maybe that's what caused Kirk to decide, you know, too many people have died under my captaincy, and I don't want to do it anymore. But when we were crafting that scene, Garrett, I was dreaming and hoping and praying that it would have the emotional impact that I was imagining it to have. And when we put the music to it, once we shot it and edited it and then put the music to it, I feel like it accomplished what we set out for to accomplish. And I'm so glad that it moved you the way it did.
Captain, readings indicate the colony has been destroyed.
Romulan plasma weapon.
You're in charge?
Captain James T. Kirk, Federation Starship Enterprise.
Commander, he needs your help. I need your help.
Was an imposter.
An imposter who's now on the loose.
Hi, who's on the call, and what was the question for Vic?
Hey, Dave, can you hear me?
Yeah, I sure do.
Yeah. I'm sorry, who is it?
It's Lady Catherine.
Oh, it's one of my listeners, Lady Catherine from my music.
Hello, Lady Catherine.
Hi. Okay, Vic, I just want to say something. It's not really a question. I grew up in the same area as William Shatner, and I must say that it's
anybody in this world could have portrayed or done this as William would have wanted, it's you.
Oh, I hope that's true.
You are awesome, and your passion and your compassion is just like William's.
I am honored. And you know what, Catherine, the next time I see Bill, I'm going to tell him you said that. I'm going to tell him that I met this lady on a talk show named Lady Catherine, and she said she grew up with you and that you were a kind and compassionate person, and I'm sure he will be very glad to hear that. And I'm honored and humbled.
Again, your heart, your compassion, everything about you is so very much connected to William.
Thank you. Well, he had a huge impact on me through his portrayal of Kirk when I was a little boy. My parents had just divorced, and my mom and I lived in an apartment by ourselves. My dad was gone, and I would just watch this amazing man who was brave and kind and led his ship and took care of his friends and went on these adventures, and he was very much a father figure to me when I was a little boy. So I'm very honored to hear that. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Catherine, for calling.
Thank you so much, Lady Catherine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lady Catherine, for calling. Take care. Okay, take care.
Love you.
Thank you so much for joining the show. I was really connected to you. Watching the series, all of your fans very much appreciated every episode that you worked out. I loved it. It was passionate. It was what I wanted to see. I love you for coming on the show. And thanks so much for being part of the show that we did together. I appreciate this so much.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. All the best.
Have a good night. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We just completed the final shot from our final episode. And this will be the last time I put on the uniform of Captain Kirk. I want to thank all of you supporters, friends, family, people enthusiastic about what we have done at Star Trek Continues. We certainly have been inspired and energized by your love and your support and your kindness towards our production. So from all of us here at Star Trek Continues, we wish you the very best. May the wind be ever at your backs, and live long and prosper, each and every one of you. God bless you.